it's quieter, it takes a break.
Oh, willkommen, bienvenue, welcome once again to another IPSA Kind of Magic. I'm so sorry, Hamish. Hamish was just expounding force and I cut him off by mistake with the music. But I'm so glad all of you are here. Welcome once again to Hamish McClay of Search Convey. And this is IPSA Kind of Magic, where we talk all things that could affect people who work in the search industry. Hamish is the current chairman of IPSA, or the Association of Independent Personal Search Agents. That's the groups of people up and down the land who are specialized in searching on behalf of people looking to purchase property, or on behalf of legal eagles who are representing people who are looking to purchase property, to find out what constraints there could be, or what they should do in the future, or even what they should do now, which might be run tail between their legs in the opposite direction. Who knows? Welcome, Hamish. Today's topic is potentially a slightly controversial one. The premise is this: does a quieter market really help conveyancers? Hamish?
Well, perhaps we ought to sort of clear one thing up. But the word expounding can have all sorts of connotations. It was a simple explanation, or so I thought. I mean, Gareth just wants to get dramatic about these things, doesn't he? No, in fact,
me, dramatic?
No, it's not at all, Gareth, not at all. But however, this particular topic is really a continuum from sort of last week, where we were actually sort of speaking about the unfortunate reduction in the number of property lawyers that we do have currently sort of working. And from that particular sort of perspective, it does put pressure on those remaining, because there aren't quite as many. And the surmise of what our conversation is about today would almost, we still perhaps have a property lawyer here, so they could explain it. But in a way, we don't have any direct IPSA members who are either property lawyers or ex-property lawyers, although we obviously know a few through the organisation. I mean, further on down the road, I think we'll expound on this particular sort of topic and see how the market is going, because first of all, we're looking from the perspective of what's going to be happening this year. Is there going to be a reduction? There's been a suggestion that, and in actual fact, when you look at this, it's almost farcical. It's amazing what we can do with statistics.
Oh, yes.
The suggestion is there could be fewer, if you like, I'm going to try and say
deals.
Fewer deals, fewer sort of fewer transactions. That was the word I was looking for. It was such a long word that I don't like using long words too much. They confuse me if they don't confuse the rest of you. But anyway, reducing the number of transactions in a year by as much as 10,000. Now, when you actually think about that, is that really a reduction? You think about 10,000 in a year. So over the year, keeping it very simple, let's say it's 1,000 a month. So the number of transactions there are throughout England and Wales is reduced by 1,000 a month. How many property lawyers add on that the number of conveyancers? How many people is it? What difference does 1,000 transactions per month mean across the whole spectrum of those involved with conveyancing?
Well, I've just done in the UK overall, there are typically between 1 and 1.2 million residential property transactions per year. So 10,000 is not a great deal, is it?
Not in reality, I don't think.
No, it's so slightly less. And is the premise that if there are less property lawyers, they can service less transactions, and that's why there'll be less of them.
Yes, the intent and what that I think what the article was trying to actually sort of say, but I wanted to do this because it does actually, if you like, represent the sort of stress that goes on within the property market, sort of generally anyway. What we have is two types of conveyancing going on, and we all know about this. I mean, whether we want to sort of whether we want to think about it over much is another matter, but it certainly represents. I mean, it represents absolutely no difference for us across the IPSA membership throughout sort of England and Wales. When you actually think we're representing 300 councils,
right?
Just sort of take it at sort of 300, a reduction of 1,000 per month. When you actually sort of look at that, of course, 300 councils, that's 3 per council. Shared out between everybody that's involved with carrying out local authority searches, it makes no difference to us whatsoever. And in reality, what it will actually sort of mean, if we do get any additional breathing space, it helps, because as we well know that we take a lot of time over ensuring we've got the right information.
Right.
So finding everything that sort of comes through. If we happen to have 1 or 2 fewer searches per month on which to do that, I mean, what difference does it make relative to anything? Very, very little. But from the perspective of the conveyancers themselves, it is sometimes you can actually sort of think about this. Does it take the pressure away from them? And the funny thing is, not necessarily.
No, I wouldn't have thought so.
I mean, the thing is, what we do have is the volume-related conveyancers, and I put it down as conveyancers. They may possibly be qualified property lawyers. However, they're into a factory sort of type of system. That's the simplest way of putting it. In that volume is what counts.
Yes, it's all about throughput. It's not necessarily about consistency or quality. It's about getting it through the doors and getting it out the other side.
And so, really, that volume isn't going to impact over much on them. Of course, we can actually sort of see an element of choice. If that breathing space gives solicitors an opportunity, or property lawyers the opportunity to look at alternative methods of obtaining their data, I mean, of course, we're thrilled to bits about that, because we don't actually sort of go on sort of beating people up and saying, hey, come join us, or take you out for some grand sort of meal sort of somewhere. We don't. That's not the way we tend to operate. Although, if we can take you out for luncheon from time to time, it's not a bad idea, because at least we get away from the office, don't we?
Quite right.
But that's more to do with getting to know each other rather than the services that we can actually provide as members of IPSA.
But I have to say, and this is critical, and I'm not an expert on property searching. I'm not an expert in IPSA, but I am very pleased to say that luckily I've been involved with Hamish for a few years now, and I've had the opportunity of meeting a good number of IPSA members. And there is one thing through them all. I don't know why it's never struck me this way before. They all seem to be, as one, really good at getting to know people at a human level. And I know that sounds silly, and I know some people refer to that as a soft skill, but I think in a world which is desperately trying to get away from real personal interaction, where often you're interacting with a machine in the form of an AI or some such, the fact that IPSA members want to create some sort of interaction with their clients, even with the solicitors or the conveyancers that they're working with, the fact they want to create that personalized interaction, to my mind, creates a much better overall interaction. Far more likely that you're going to get better, useful information out of it, because proper questions have been passed between them, that it's not just a button pushing exercise. Do you see what I'm driving at, Hamish?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, to me, the great aspect of being able to speak to solicitors speaking to property lawyers is to find out exactly what their pain is, what it is which is creating that pressure on them. Is it volume related, or what is it that comes? And to be perfectly honest, it's the content. But for a property lawyer, it's the content that's important, and what we try and do as much as we possibly can. And we almost do it from a one-stop shop sort of type of perspective. So we're not just we don't just sort of sell product.
Right.
We provide a service which can contain a vast number of product should it be required. But what we try and do, of course, is to actually present our clients with whatever information they require.
Right.
And we are involved directly to refine that information so there is no overkill. They don't need to sort of double check it. They can rely on that information as is actually sort of coming through, because there's so many varying ways of that information being obtained now. It can be scraped. I think AI can get involved with it some of the time. And we know the good thing about AI, and this is a proven fact that if AI doesn't know of any cases particularly, it will make them up to sort of...
Yeah, this is the problem. It fantasizes. And this means you can't always rely on it. You always need to be able to check back its provenance. Work out where the hell it's come from. Where did it come out that information from, you know?
And one of the interesting things, I was speaking to my granddaughter yesterday evening, and she said the challenge with AI is you need to fact check it all the time. There are certain aspects of it that is so very, very true. We don't know. But the other aspect, I think, which sort of came out, and Dan mentioned this before, and it was great hearing a property lawyer actually saying this at our conference last week. He actually, the comment he actually sort of came out with was AI really can make a significant difference and can help through an awful lot of, I was going to say balls aching tasks, if you'll excuse the expression, but it's about that. It does save an awful lot of balls aching sort of tasks. However, it doesn't replace humans, because a lot of people will sell AI to you. Basically, you run a business on your own now with AI, but you need to study AI to be able to actually sort of do that. And you do need, as John Coulter explained to us, you do need to really have an AI champion to get that effective. So AI can actually help. It can streamline certain aspects. However, the final presentation really does need that sort of human touch just to put the whole thing together. And we can use AI, and many of the sort of members are using our AI now, but that is not the final result. So basically, yes, information can be downloaded. It needs to be refined. At this moment in time, AI can't actually do that refining work. So what we can actually do is take the pressure away there. So what we're saying is, if there is a minor reduction in volume, which only seems to be the potential case, it could well increase. There's no way of telling. However, the important thing is, whatever happens, that the stress doesn't go away. However, by using the by using an appropriate method of obtaining the data, can actually sort of take a lot of pressure away from the actual process, from the perspective of the solicitors, of property lawyers who are working this. It doesn't really help the sort of the fact that the corporate sort of type conveyancers, because they've still got to maintain those volumes. There's very little change for them, still powering through, and therefore it doesn't give that aspect of sort of detail, which if you like, the experienced personal search agents can actually provide. So anybody that's sort of working with, or is intending working with looking out for new clients, really has something to add to that. And also to our audience there, many of whom are not members of IPSA at all. It's an indication that there are, again, within this property sector, you still get that individual level of support. We know what it used to be. I mean, they're quite good in some of our local supermarkets because I can say, where can you've moved this around. Where can I find such a thing? And they're actually training them now to tell you. You go back 2 years ago, they didn't even train you. And they
No,
said,
I think that was because it wasn't perceived that interpersonal relations were important. And I think more and more in a world that is taking away the vast bulk of interaction and putting it in the electronic era, that what's left needs to be personal, needs to be relationship based. And so let me just bring it back. IPSA, IPSA are a group of similarly minded. I refer to it as like a cooperative where they all work together towards one goal, but they each work in the area that most is relevant to them, and that's because they have a personal relationship with the geographical region that they work in. So if somebody wanted something in Glamorgan, wrong idea, in north of England somewhere, in Birmingham for instance, then there would be a Birmingham related IPSA member who would take up that mantle. If you wanted something around Oxfordshire, specifically around Bicester, you probably would be talking to Hamish and his team. Each of them have specialised areas, and they pass it around depending on who's got the specialism. That means you're getting the most relevant person for the job, and because of this drive for personal interaction, and the fact that the data they produce, we often talk about this, don't we, Hamish? This idea that if you've got all the data, it doesn't actually help you make the decisions you need to make. What you need is the relevant data, and that's what IPSA specializes in, is in curating the data. I often refer to it like a John Lewis kind of method, that you end up with the right curated data that will help you make that decision, and quickly. Am I on the right track? Amy?
Oh, very, very, very much so. Funnily enough, I actually sort of, against my sort of name that Search and Convey, I did actually have the term conveyancing. I currently have it as conveyancing collaborator. Right. Previously, I did have it as almost a sort of a sculpture. Per se, it's a sort of method that we can actually sort of use because we speak to each of our individual clients and sort of say, how do you want this? What is you particularly, what is there a way you particularly like to receive it? Is there something you like to focus on? Do you like reference numbers? Do you want access to this? And what we actually try and do is say that the best for them to cut the amount of work down that they're actually sort of doing, to take, if we can, and it does actually sort of say within my content, which really is purely a reflection of what we do within IPSA. We do try and work on relieving that particular stress element, so when people know they can trust what we are doing to be the best that they're able to get. And secondly, not only is that the best, should the clients come up with any query, should the conveyancer on the other side of things come up with a query, we can go straight back to the source ourselves because we've sourced it. One other thing to actually sort of say, it doesn't matter which IPSA member you approach because that member has access to all of the other members.
Exactly.
And that to me is one of the great things. And we don't work it on a commercial basis. The interaction was what we could do early days. It was dead easy. I'll do that one for you if you do that one for me. So we basically swap it over. Of course, that's not as easy now with the volumes we have, but it's set up in sort of such a way, it doesn't matter where we go. There's both a consistency in terms of price and the availability we get to know about, because it does vary so much between those 300 plus councils, and of course we've got these blooming unitary things coming in now which screw it up for everybody and puts even more stress on solicitors. But because we work with individual councils, before they stuff them under this unitary umbrella. Particularly, this government's trying to sort of push through at an alarming rate, without looking at consequence. I do feel that we can actually create consistency in terms of the way the quality of the information comes through, and therefore the solicitor doesn't need to worry about whether it goes unitary, whether the land charges are taken over by land registry. All of these things taken care of. All
right. So look, I think we could finish off this podcast now, but just by you just giving a relatively short answer back to the premise. Does a quieter market actually help conveyances, or in fact does it make no real difference?
It really makes no difference whatsoever. It would need to be a vast difference.
And this is less. This is about 10% change. 10,000 roughly is 10%. So it's not a vast change.
But it would need to be a vast difference. The pressure's still there, of course. However, getting that right information makes a difference.
And you know what? That's the very watchword I would say of IPSA. Not getting every piece of information, getting the right information. And by the way, what amazes me and still amazes me to this day, if you ask a factory conveyancer or you put a request in via that route, it can take you days, weeks, occasionally months. Whereas if you go through IPSA, it tends to be much quicker. I don't understand how they do it, but I suspect it's the strength of their interpersonal relations and the fact they're actually getting what you need, not whether or not there was a tree stump removed there 30 years ago. It's amazing that the focus can be to get what you need to make the deal go through, not get what you need because you're getting every last nook and cranny. Thank you so much, Hamish. As ever, poignant thoughts. Thank you all for watching. I see you've been flitting in and flitting out. Please keep watching because we've got plenty more podcasts coming. There's one every day this week now. We've got one tomorrow, which is excellent, and one Thursday, one on Friday. So please do look out for that. What do we have? We have on Thursday we've got Property Quorum, which it should be a nice, interesting mix of people. Really, a bunch of experts talking about what's really going on. And on Friday, arguably our busiest show, Conveyancing, has never been the same since Cladding Matters hit it. And Cladding Matters is all about talking about property iniquity in the revision of dodgy cladding, but also what happens when you take the cladding off and find the dodgy workmanship underneath. If you want to see any of that and you want to be involved, please watch out. So tomorrow it's 10 o'clock, and on Friday we have it at 1, don't we, Hamish?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Perfect. Also, this is advance notice. We have a new podcast all about healthcare coming up. It's all Hamish's idea, but we've got some excellent people involved. Heather, Joe, and Hamish will be fronting it, so watch out for that. You'll see, hopefully, a trail of short bits and pieces talking about that in the next couple of weeks, and then we'll be launching. So please do watch out for that. If you ever feel that perhaps it's getting on top of you and want to find out ways in which you can reduce that self-stress, find out ways that you can feel personally more relevant by improving your personal health, then perhaps you enjoy this. Joe is has been running physical training and exercise and healthcare of that kind for a long time, 20 to 30 odd years, I think. Heather is a hypnotherapist and sound healer, Reiki practitioner, and et cetera. And Hamish has just got a very, very strong interest, and always has, in natural health and the way in which you can find your ways through that. So please watch out for that. It's coming soon. But until the next time we see you, please keep your feet on the ground, keep reaching for the stars, and try and look after that mental health. Until next time, bye-bye.